Welcome, Emily, to the Writing with Purpose podcast. It's fantastic to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really lovely to be here.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Emily, so you are a therapeutic writing teacher based in Scania. Did I say that right, in Sweden?
Yeah, Scania, that's correct. Yeah.
Scania?
Or
Great.
Skåne in Swedish. Yes.
Scorner. Okay.
Skåne,
It's
yeah.
amazing how the vowels change.
Yeah.
And you've trained with some of the leading organisations, leading practitioners in the field of therapeutic writing, of journaling, and you offer a range of teaching classes and resources that blend trauma sensitive and expressive writing. And you're also certified with the global writing movement, Write Yourself, two separate words, yourself.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and we met in Barcelona in November in 2024 at the first Barcelona Journaling Festival, and you were one of the incredible lineup of speakers. And I was fortunate enough to learn from you as one of the panels, also some of the exercises that you did in the classes, but also to mingle with you as well because everybody was so accessible during the 3 days, which was fabulous. So I'm really, really looking forward to having this conversation with you. And I appreciate your time in being here. So, Emily, this episode is going out on International Women's Day. And what a great day for people to put a pen and a journal, either for the first time or to deepen their practice of writing. And whether you're listening or watching are male, female, however you identify, what does International Women's Day mean to you?
Or I think about all the strong women in my family line, in particular my grandmother Zenobia. My Polish grandmother survived the Holocaust, has been a great inspiration for me, who have been exploring my own writing. My mother, who was a very, very strong woman too, but in a different kind of way. And I would encourage people to think a little bit extra maybe about their loved relatives, female relatives who are no longer with us, and explore that in writing. It's given me so much to explore my grandmother. I felt closer to her. I lost her quite suddenly, so there were things unsaid. So that's been very nice for me to communicate with her again. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely activity to do, to think about somebody somewhere, an ancestor and write about them, and also an opportunity to explore a little bit more
Mm,
about their life and what they went through in their time. My grandma passed when I was 13, and she was quite ill for some time, but never told anybody. She was from the generation where you didn't bother other people with
mm,
things. And I often wonder how different it would be if she had bothered somebody about it. But she pops up randomly every so often.
mm.
So I think that's a really nice prompt from you there, Emily. Thank you. Have a
Mm.
think about those female um, family members in life, past or present.
Exactly. And honor them. Could also be another woman in your life, maybe a teacher or sister, an aunt, somebody who has made an impact in your life, in your writing.
Yeah, wonderful exercise. Thank you. So, Emily, if you're happy to, if you could share a little bit about your motivations in becoming a therapeutic writing teacher, and maybe also a little bit about your background, which is in journalism, if I've got that correct.
That's correct. Yes, so it's a long story, really, how it all began. But to cut it short, I lived in England for about 14 years, and I was in London for quite a few years, working as a freelance reporter. And then we moved to the southeast coast of England, and that's where I got an opportunity to teach a workshop for a charity called MCCH, so a writing class. And I decided to go for that opportunity, although I had never taught in my life. And I
Ah,
felt a certain amount of insecurities about that because I always had fear of standing up in a classroom holding a presentation and that sort of thing. But somehow it all made sense that it's my turn now to teach. I had been thinking about it, but not had the courage to do so. So it began in Kent because this group started exploring, and I I guess I had the courage to start experimenting with quite unusual prompts, and I then discovered Pennebaker's
Hmm.
research and the expressive writing field, which was all new to me. So I began there, and now it's been 10 years. But my background is in journalism. I started very early when I was in my teens through work experience for my local newspaper. And I've always been interested in the personal story, interviewing and digging a little bit deeper. I ended up working as an obituary editor, and it sounds perhaps a bit strange, but I had then a chance to go very, very deep because, of course, we wrote about deaths and births and everything in between, interviewing 100-year-olds who had
Wow.
great personal stories. So working with groups and individuals who wants to dig deeper into themselves and explore the memory archive is quite natural for me, I think, based on those early journalistic experiences.
Yeah, that's a lovely story because it can see how speaking to those people who've lost somebody, welcomed somebody, and how both of those, every part of life is emotional, but they are two key milestones of emotional times in life, and how expressive people are during those times. It's almost like a sidestep rather than a complete change, I would say, from the journalism and then going into the teaching and writing being perhaps the link between the two. And congratulations as well for starting that and taking that leap, because I think when you mentioned about the standing up in front of people, isn't that something like the second biggest fear
Mm,
that we have?
it is. It
So
is one of the most common fears, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So,
congratulations. And I
oh,
think
thank
as
you.
well, writing, therapeutic writing, journaling around a fear like that is can be very powerful and overcoming such a challenge.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Um,
I know because it's probably safe to say that you never look back.
No, no, it's taken me many years though to overcome it. It didn't happen instantly, but I can say now that I feel at ease going in and meeting these individuals and in such an as well. And obviously we're doing this together, so it's not like I'm a teacher coming in and teaching the ways. We're doing it together, so that's the beauty of the work. Yeah, we're learning from each other. There's an expression, I think, when one teaches to learn, and that resonates with me very well.
Yeah, that's a lovely way of reframing a situation. It's a togetherness, a journey you can share together and learning and realizations.
I have my personal story, of course, as well. I come from a trauma background, so I think it's been equally as healing for me working with my groups, um, because yeah, it goes both ways, so to say. Um,
Does most definitely. And so yeah, would you be open to sharing a little bit about your journey from that, and then of course your writing journey, because your first guide was Write to Heal, which you're working on having translated into English this year. So it's a Swedish at the moment. Swedish, is that right?
yeah, so from
That
Swedish
didn't
to
sound
English.
right when I said
Yeah.
Swedish then. I was thinking,
Yeah.
oh, have I said the right word?
I think you said it the right way. So from Swedish to English, finally. Yes, it's the first guidebook of its kind in Swedish. Because when I started teaching and exploring the expressive writing field, I discovered there's very, very few books in Swedish. In fact, there's only one book, Writing as a Way of Healing by Louise de Salvo, that's been translated to Swedish about 30 years ago. So I managed to get a copy of that book, and there were a few other sort of, how can I say, light guides to therapeutic writing, but I felt the need of writing, yeah, a big guide that would cover, how to say, the whole journey, everything from the research side of things to the case studies, writing exercises, and then my own story blended into that, how it began for me, and an interview series with experts around the world. So in that way, I can still do my journalistic work, which I love. And I actually wanted to go back to Sweden and work as a journalist, but it was literally impossible because the field had changed so much. So
Mm.
this is why the timing of the workshop I got to teach in in England was very timely because it made me discover teaching and teaching such an interesting subject. So anyway, the guidebook is now 3 years old, and a lot has happened in that space of time, actually. Now I find that people are really discovering the book, and we're printing a second edition now, and the book
Brilliant.
will be translated to English this year. So yeah, the Scandinavian audience is waking up, so to say, to expressive writing, because it's still quite new, a new field for us.
Mm. Yeah.
I think in Sweden we believe that you need to be a psychotherapist or psychologist in order to teach therapeutic writing. That's often the first question I get asked. Oh, so you're a therapist and you're a psychologist? No, I don't have to backpedal and share my story. And I found myself almost becoming defensive, like I have deserved my badge to teach this method, because I don't agree with that the fact that you have to be a psychologist in order to do this. It's so much about the personal story and the
Yeah.
desire and longing to teach this method. You do it for personal reasons, and that's equally as important. And also the fact that in my case, I'm a journalist. I have great use of those experiences. So when we journal, as you know, uh, we we're allowed, obviously, to go deep if we're ready to do so, but with the correct guidance,
Yeah.
there's not going to be necessarily a breakdown in the room. That's what people here in Sweden think. Oh gosh, you're not going to be able to handle the emotions. But with this method, it's very gentle. We can explore in a soft way. So I think it takes a specific guide to do so.
I agree with you there. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you're not trained in psychotherapy or you can't be a guide in expressive writing, and particularly having the training of being a journalist and writing with words. I think a lot comes down to the use of language as well, which is very important when
Mm,
teaching or guiding somebody through writing. It's important not to place something in somebody's mind,
mm,
to be completely unbiased about things, and also to be very aware of how something might be interpreted. We've already mentioned about cultures and people
mm,
determining things differently, and that is an English language skill. You
mm.
don't think you necessarily have to have all of the psychological, sociological, is that the right way? Training for that.
No.
And there's pros and cons for both, or pros, probably not really cons for
Mm.
both, but pros for both.
No, it's so true. I remember in my early days, I would be asked also, there will be a psychotherapist in the room then, as well as you. And I would say no, no, because the method is so gentle and we go step by step. We're not going to deep dive. I think that's what some people think, or they have
Mm,
this idea that that's what therapeutic writing is about, to write about the most traumatic memories and yeah, turn those memories around. And yeah, but it's not at all that dramatical. So now I think because we're more practitioners in Sweden, for example, and there's more books now. I think Right to Heal was perhaps the start of this. I
yeah.
like to think anyway. So yeah, and I'm glad to see that the network is growing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you've taken something that, as you say, there was that lived experience from your end, and you had,
Mm.
that drive and that passion to making something out of that and being able to share that and help others. And you've started a movement, you could say.
Yeah, I suppose I could say that alongside with Write Yourself, who has, of course, developed a trauma-sensitive method. That's where I began my teaching journey in Sweden. I started a program, a trauma-sensitive writing program based on the Write Yourself method that then grew. So I've been experimenting with many therapeutic writing methods in order to create my own program, which has now happened. So I recently started training others to teach expressive writing method at the community college here in Sweden, in the south. So this is an exciting journey for me that has now begun. I still teach workshops and digital courses mainly and weekend courses, but my main focus now is to train others. Yeah.
Yeah, to spread the word further, of course, and help to
Yes.
get the work out there. And so is that something, Emelie, that's going to be ongoing where people can join and then is it just based in Sweden at the moment, or people can come and train from different countries?
I'm hoping to expand that. It's still early days, so I shouldn't reveal too much, but it's some, yeah, it will be also a digital program in the future in English. That's something that I'm currently planning, but right now it's only available in Sweden at this particular community college.
Yeah.
And it was a year-long course. We meet in a physical space and then we meet on Zoom. We have numbers of guest speakers from abroad, such as Linda Monk, who's the director of International Association for Journal Writing, Sandra Marinella, for example, who written a book called The Story You Need to Tell.
You're a member, aren't you, of the International Association of Journal Writing, which is her organization.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I am a member, which is a great honor really to be a part of this fantastic group of writing teachers around the world, and a really great, of course, opportunity to network for me. This is sort of makes my program unique, that we have this international, how can I say, well, it's an international program in that sense. We invite, of course, Linda Monk, like I mentioned, Sandra Marinella, Megan Hayes, that you also know
Ah,
from Barcelona Journaling Festival, and we're inviting Jackie this year, and Mark Matusek, if you're familiar with the book Writing to Awaken. So a lot of exciting names, and I'm very proud, I must say, about this growing network and to be able to offer this to my Swedish audience and students to get to know these fantastic teachers, and for me now colleagues. These are all people that I have looked up to so much, and I have all their books. So it was quite surreal actually being asked if I wanted to join the council. So
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
yeah
Well, that's
dream.
a
Dream.
credit to you that they've been watching you from afar, or and they've
Mm,
noticed the good work that you've been doing out in the community, and that you've clearly got something with the programs that you've put together. So that's fantastic. It's congratulations. I remember your exercise in the Barcelona Journaling Festival with the signposts, the street
oh yes.
posts, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I'd never done anything like that before, but picking a signpost that symbolized where you were at that
Mm,
time. And I thought that was quite powerful. And then particularly the different stages that you take people through and that reflective stage at the end, which helps you to go deeper. Is it okay if you share the stages?
of
You
course. I love exercise that contains several steps, so to say, so you can gradually then go deeper and check in with yourself that way. And then, of course, the post-reflection work, which is, I think, key here, that you read through your writing and yeah, then can see maybe a message or a question or an answer.
you talked about the different stages and
Mm,
the visualization stage of what we're relating to, I suppose,
yeah.
and then writing about it, but then actually going back and reading the writing, which I think sometimes in journaling it's such a powerful practice, but people approach it sometimes as though it's just a diary, a
Mm,
collection of what's happened throughout the day, and they don't particularly go back and reread
exactly.
what they've put to try and find the meaning or the patterns or
Mm,
the messages that are there. So I think having the steps that you went through, it's allowing people to take it a step or two further to really get the powerful benefits.
exactly. And you do it for yourself. You don't share. Some writing guides, of course, they encourage you to read what you've written. Um, For example, the other day, I invited Judy Reeves, who's also a member of the International Journal Council, Council, uh, and her approach is to instead read your writing, you share it, like you hear your voice out loud, and that is, of course, also healing. It has a healing effect, but not everyone is ready to share. And if I look back on my writing journey, all the courses I've taken in creative writing, for example, you're very much pushed to read out loud. So for me, that creates almost anxiety still after all these years. I don't like that feeling to be forced to share, because sharing should be an opportunity, not an obligation, like Kate
Yeah.
Thompson says. So I very much live by that rule. You share if you're ready to share. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a choice, isn't it? If you want to share,
yeah,
then yeah, you have the choice to that. But equally, and it's no more powerful, I don't think, if you share or if you keep it to yourself because you've already gone through sharing with yourself. If I could
yes.
say that, you don't have to share it with other people because I always think of any form of journaling, not just the expressive side of
Mm,
journaling, but if it's gratitude journaling, if it's bullet journaling, whichever method works for
mm,
you, you're still getting to know yourself better every
exactly.
time you do something. But yeah, I thought your exercise was really powerful because I appreciate that way of that technique, if you like, of kind of
Mm,
getting in and pulling out what might be in there that needs to be heard. The prompts, journaling, visual prompts
yeah,
especially, help to just open that door for me. That is my way of
yeah.
opening up and starting to flow. Written prompts work, but not as
Mm,
much as the visual ones. That's
yeah.
kind of my thing. I've got all sorts of cards that I
Mm.
use. Yeah.
I agree with you. Images, symbols, like the road sign exercise, they are my favorites too, and the most effective if I want to explore something.
Yeah, I was just having a conversation with Jackie Holder that you mentioned that she was at the Barcelona Journaling Festival, and it was surprising how many metaphors that we both referred to during the conversation about trees and nature and growth and branching out and
Mm,
sprouting and saplings and very visual. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Emelie. By using metaphors or using visuals, it takes you away from the current situation and surroundings, if you like, and
yeah.
just helps you to expand more and access more. Perhaps
Mm,
something is going on in the head that aids that.
yeah. Yeah, completely. I agree with you. I'm holding a silent writing retreat this weekend, so we're going to work actually a little bit with metaphors and nature prompts. I was very inspired by Jackie's workshop, and of course that is also a writing tool, writing from metaphors. So I'm now currently blending that into my program. I think is very powerful, and it takes you to unexpected places completely, and that gives you real, I think, freedom. Yeah, especially with nature,
Yeah,
it's so powerful. The metaphors of nature, we can all relate to them.
yeah, I think we can, even if we're somebody that doesn't live close to nature.
Mm,
We all get that feeling, even if we're not quite as open to it, or some of us aren't quite as open to it. There is sensations and senses and energy around different aspects of nature.
yes, yes, definitely. That help us connect with various senses and. Yeah, we can travel by the help of metaphors, definitely.
Yeah, that's a great way to refer to it. Yeah, travel.
Mm.
Freedom and travel, the two
Yeah,
things that you've mentioned really go really
yeah.
well together. Yeah. So what exactly does the silent retreat, writing retreat entail? Are you doing it online or in person? And
No, we're doing it in person. We're doing
okay.
it at my community college. I've held silent retreats before, but in a different setting, in a church in Stockholm, for congregation up there. And now I suggested that maybe we should try and do a silent retreat at the college, and they said yes, yeah, let's do it. And yeah, I got signed up very quick, very pleased about that. So there will be 20 of us, I think, 20 ladies, and we're gonna, yeah, do a journey Saturday and Sunday. We're not gonna share until the very end of the day if we want to. That's also, of course, not anything you must do, but we're gonna do again this some of my favorite imagery exercises. We're going to work with symbols, with metaphors, trees. Actually, I took inspiration from Jackie, but we're also going to write about silence, because you need silence in order to listen within. So the first day will be an exploration, I think, about, yeah, what silence mean to you, what you need in order to enter this house. I like this metaphor. Writing is like stepping into your inner house, opening up the
Mm.
door. What do you see when you open up that door? What comes to your mind? And then gradually go further into your inner house.
Yeah, what a lovely visualization of opening that door and stepping in and saying hello to what's inside and
Yeah,
exploring.
it's a powerful exercise. It can also be very emotional. So if you're not ready, you can obviously close that door and simply write about the feeling you have. So there's no need to step in, but most people do it, and they have a, yeah, a very positive experience. And my main ambition is to make my groups curious. They want to go further. And yeah, curiosity is important in this process. We need
Yeah.
to stay curious and open to what's going to come next. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree there. I think curiosity is something that I try to embed all the time, and I know I've spoken about this before with people that go walking quite a lot, and I'm always the one that's at the back because I've seen something that I've thought, oh, what is that? And
Yeah.
where's that come from, or what is that color? What's that texture? And I get very curious about things that I see but also about things that I hear. And I think journaling is great because you can get curious about
Mm,
the things that you've seen or heard, and maybe it's triggered something, and then you can explore that. And curiosity is the thing that you need to embrace in order
mm,
to do that.
yeah.
And that's all it is, isn't it? It's kind of embracing curiosity, maybe
Mm,
as opposed to fear or anxiety, because I don't know if you've come across this, but I always think that's one of the things that people wouldn't necessarily turn to journaling for is because they almost don't want to open a can of worms, to use the
exactly.
phrase, or they're frightened of getting to any
Mm,
sort of deeper meaning, whereas just be curious about it and see where it might lead. There's no right or wrong, but
mm,
always, once you allow yourself to do that, there's that rainbow on the other side, or there's a
mm,
realization or something that, is helpful.
yeah.
I guess I'm trying to say it's not, you might be going somewhere a bit darker potentially, but there's
Mm.
always light at the end of that
Of,
dark
of course.
tunnel.
Of course it is. And if you have a guide by your side who is supportive and can help you to do things in a sort of structured, safe way, it can be such an exciting and fun journey. It's not necessarily going to be as heavy as you think. But I think the most common reason why you're so scared is that it's also effort to write. Some people just simply don't like the idea of writing that's going to so hard, and I can't write. I was never good at writing at school, but it's not about that. And I think we're all writers. That's what I've seen. I've seen the most beautiful pieces of writing come alive during my classes, and I was so happy to be able to share them. In both books, I have examples of what happened when we approached a specific prompt, and it's so authentic and real. And yeah, that's the beauty of it.
And I think when people do go through that sort of that experience and they write things down, when they look back over it, certainly I've done this a few times and think, wow, did I write that?
Yeah.
Because it comes out when you write. I always find, I mean, I'm a copywriter by trade,
Right.
marketing and copywriting, and I've sort of diversified that over the last few years. But my speech is very different to the way that I write. But
Mm,
if I'm writing a corporate business piece of work, completely different voice to if it's me,
mm,
completely different. And if I
yeah.
really go in deep, that's different again because, like
Mm,
you said, it's the authentic part of you that's perhaps raw or un untainted with anything, and whatever
mm,
comes out is what needs to come out at the time. And it's almost like the foundations that you can grow with, rebuild, flourish, whatever's you need to do at the time.
mm. It makes me think of an exercise you're probably familiar with it, writing for a symbolic audience, I think it's called. It's a Penneback exercise when you write for, well, you write to a teacher perhaps, and then you write to your boss, to your partner, and anyway, the text or the voice changes obviously, and that's what's so interesting about the exercise. Yeah, what you share and what you not share, and yeah, and so on.
Yeah,
We have many voices inside of us, but writing therapeutically, yes, that means that that raw, untamed voice will show itself, and it's usually, yeah, very, very powerful, as you know, and
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the voice that we tend not to listen to as much as
Mm.
we ought to.
No, no, that's the thing. I, of course, did training with Kathleen Adams after Barcelona Journaling Festival, and I was really shocked actually about what came out in a dialogue exercise. I'm still processing it, but it was also very, very helpful. But that's the thing, this is an ongoing journey. You're never finished with your therapeutic writing journey because it's always new things that would come up to the surface that's been, yeah, deep inside of you. And when it's ready, it will enter the surface, so to say, with the right guiding and the right exercise at the right time.
Hmm. Yeah, I read something that referred to that process of it being unearthing and, digging deeper and a bit like an archaeological site and how you
Yes,
unearth something and then something else might be a little bit deeper, and then that reveals something else. And it's a bit, peeling back the layers. And I completely
yeah,
agree with you. It's an ongoing journey, but it's
yeah,
also a very rewarding journey as well
yeah.
if you stick to it.
I like that metaphor, the archaeological kind of site. I think there is a lady called Susan Zimmerman who wrote exactly about this. It's a good image. I think that's really what it is about.
It is, and I love how I think on your website somewhere you refer to writing as investigative,
mm,
and I often refer to it as exploratory, which
yeah,
does bring up the connotations of curiosity that we've talked about already. But I think investigation does have that more deep-rooted unearthing
yeah, yeah,
context to it. We're not just curious to try and find it, but we are searching for the deeper meaning,
mm,
which I think as we go deeper or as we build this into more of a practice, we are going deeper. And
mm,
maybe the curiosity fuels that to a certain
yeah.
extent. This investigation is something that it's like an open-ended investigation because it's
It's
something that is ongoing.
Yeah, definitely. And you need to be curious, not just curious, you need to be courageous as well and open to what might happen. Look at it and then maybe put it in a drawer and okay, not now, but later on. But it is a brave act, I think. I always say that to my groups that you're
Mm.
very brave to be here, especially this group that I will meet on the weekend that will write in silence, because I think that takes another type of courage to take yourself seriously and your writing and your desire to explore. Yeah, it's very humbling to witness such process. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds amazing. I wish I was closer.
Yeah, yeah, it would be lovely. You'd love the community college. It's very beautiful. It's on the beach. You can see Denmark on the other side. And yeah, it's a place I actually call home because I feel very at ease there. A nice
Yeah.
space for writing.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something else that's very important when you start any kind of writing journey, is that space that you create,
Yeah.
who you're with, where you are, because some of them are more conducive than others. You know,
Mm,
it's something that I I did used to have a little bean bag that I used to have in the corner of the room here that was my creative writing spot. I sold it in the end just before Christmas because I thought it's not really creating the right space for me. I need the right chair
mm,
if I'm going to be inside because I do quite a lot of writing outside. I do draw a lot of inspiration from
mm,
nature. But inside, I feel as though I need that different space and I need to create that ritual almost before I
mm.
feel comfortable doing. So I think that's very important that you feel safe and nurtured in the space that you write.
Definitely. That's another writing exercise to imagine that space and explore that safe writing space. When I did my trauma sensitive writing program, we used to go to that exercise. Yeah, visualize it when we felt a bit unstable. That
Yeah, bringing you back to the place that gives you comfort.
exactly. Yeah.
Emelie, if I could go back a little bit and
Mm,
ask you what your first memory of writing is and
mm.
how writing and reading, what part did they play in your childhood?
A huge part. I honestly would say I wouldn't have survived if I didn't have writing and access to library. I was the biggest, I think, customer. I would, read during the summer holidays, for example. I remember there was this competition, the summer book. So you would read X amount of books and then you would win a prize. Well, it would often be a book in the end. But yeah, I did that and I wrote diary from an early age. I had lots and lots of pen pals around the world. I placed adverts in various magazines and I got a huge response. So that's how it began for me. But the diary played a big importance. It was a way for me to cope because I lived in quite an unhappy family setting, and my father suffered huge mental health issues. He was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So
Mm,
I lived in a home that was unstable, big highs and lows, etc. And there was also a war trauma from the Second World War. My grandparents survived the Holocaust, and I would spend a lot of time in their home. And yeah, the writing became soon a way for me to process, yeah, what I experienced and what I felt. And the diary was my friend, really.
yeah, yeah, that non-judging friend that's always
Mm,
there when you need it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's lovely to hear you talk about having the pen pals and placing the adverts and you
Mm,
creating your own community there from such a young
yeah.
age. And that reminded me of because I had quite a few pen pals when I was younger as well, because we didn't have the internet, did we? Emails or instant messaging or social media or any of those things. And yeah, I remember writing to people in America and
Mm,
Canada and Singapore. In fact, somebody last year, I feel bad because I can't remember, but she connected with me on LinkedIn and she said, I was your
okay.
pen pal in
Oh, wow.
America. And I
How
thought, oh,
nice.
wow. But I never kept
Amazing.
any of those letters. Did you keep any of yours?
Yeah, I kept all the letters until recently, actually, because we moved from a bigger house to a much smaller house, and I decided, okay, I have to somehow let go, because I had, big baskets full of letters, and there were some of these pen pals that were very special to me. There's a lady in Denmark that I am still searching for, because I would love to reconnect with her. She was really like, yeah, a best friend that I didn't have because my school years were quite lonely. I was quite bullied during especially the primary school years. So it would have been nice to say to her today how much she meant to me,
Yeah.
really. Mm. So yeah, we'll see if I succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame, I think, talking to you about this because I loved reading and writing. I used to write little stories about a pink sea serpent with my friend. We used to stay in the classroom at lunchtime and write instead of going out and playing. It was a little bit like a
Mm,
Paddington Bear type character. So
yeah.
yeah, my world centered a lot around reading and writing. And now I was reading some statistics on the literacy website and how much the statistics have depleted for youngsters, A, actively reading and writing, and B, saying that they enjoy reading and writing as well. And I think it's such a shame because so much is just put in front of us all the time that we just consume
Mm,
passively.
exactly.
Um, yeah, reading and writing for me is such I suppose you could say that reading is passive, but I think you still activate different parts of your brain and more thinking
Mm,
parts of your brain than just watching
absolutely.
the TV, for example.
Absolutely. I think there's some studies on reading only 6 pages before you go to bed would instantly calm your nervous system and give you a better night's sleep. I believe that's true, actually.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I think I shared something like that on social media just before Christmas.
Mm.
It came in from the local library email
Uh-huh.
list that I'm signed up to, and I thought, wow, that is something that needs to be shared.
Yeah, no, that was actually a friend of mine who shared that.
Oh, I'll find the link.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
send it to
yeah,
you.
yeah, yes, no, please do. Yeah, I like listening to audiobooks as well, but I think something about reading, holding the actual book, it's a different, yeah, connection somehow. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
that having that tangible thing in your hand, and it's almost like
yeah,
an extension of you.
yeah. I have probably about 8 books on my bedside table at the moment. I like to kind of jump from one book to another or have
Yeah.
several on the go, depending on my mood or yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've always got two or three on the go,
Mm,
and I've just ordered. I've started because from the university studies that I don't learn well when I'm reading online. I prefer
mm,
I digest it better
yeah.
from the physical book, and I have a lot of sticky notes that I write notes and stick them in. I can't write
Mm,
in how Megan at the Barcelona Journal Festival was talking about the marginalia, people
yes.
writing, and I can't do that.
No, no, I'm the same. I'm the
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
So I've got sticky notes all throughout the book sticky tabs, and I've just ordered about 12 books online, but I order them from secondhand sites quite often now,
Mm,
just
yeah.
because I'd spend well I don't earn enough to buy the amount of books that I want to.
No, I hear you. I've just ordered some books as well on Amazon, the used versions, because some of the books I want are super expensive. I was
Mm.
shocked actually. Yeah,
Yeah, particularly if it's research based, if they're
exactly.
sort of journal
Yeah,
type books, yeah, they're
yeah.
quite expensive, aren't they? But I do
They
listen
are.
to Audible as well with some of them, and our local library system has an app
Mm,
as well. So I started listening to more fiction
yeah.
on Borrow Box, it's called, just because um, I I find myself listening to a different type of genre in
Mm,
fiction. Whereas if I read, and I will always buy a book that's more crime or psychological thriller based,
mm,
whereas just fictional or something that might be a bit more of a romance or just a comedy, I
mm,
would listen to
yeah.
more. I don't quite know why that is, but that's the trend for me.
I think we need a variety. Yeah, at least I think we're similar that way. Like I need a dose of feel good every now and then a self-help book the next day. Self biographies I love. But yeah, I couldn't just read those kind of books. Yeah, it's healthy, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And variety, I think, helps us improve the way that we are and
Mm.
emotional intelligence and regulation and how we interact with other people always helps if we have different experiences. And I think reading and writing helps with that.
Definitely. I think our writing gets somehow dry, like we're in a desert. If we don't read, we need to be fed in that kind of way. Yeah, it goes hand in hand, really. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it as it feeding us, for
Yeah.
sure. Knowledge and creativity.
Yeah. There was a time when I didn't have so much time to read because I was so kind of engaged with groups and others, other well students writing. I also used to work as a creative writing teacher alongside my therapeutic writing. Oh my gosh, it was such a clash actually in the end. But I remember in that period of time I didn't get to read so much, and yeah, now I'm the opposite. I try to read a lot and I feel much better actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also therapeutic. Reading is therapeutic, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it helps us to slow down
Mm,
and just get away from the hustle and bustle
mm.
of daily life. What was the last book that you read, or what's one of the current ones that you have on the go?
Yeah, so one book that has made an impact on me is a book called Saudade. I don't know if you are familiar with the word. It's a Portuguese word which basically means a feeling of longing or melancholy, like a nostalgic feeling, which is characteristic for the Portuguese temperament, like something you long for that you have lost, like a love
Mm,
or a place or a specific moment in time that can create this feeling sadad, and it's written by a Swedish journalist and writer who lives in Brazil. He's based in Rio since 20 years, so obviously he's constantly longing back to Sweden, but he also
yeah,
loves his life in Brazil. So he's been exploring this by interviewing people, what Saudade means, traveling around in Europe or in the US, interviewing the Brazilian Portuguese community and also Swedes. And it's a very interesting book, I think, because I'm in between countries, England, Sweden, and I often get stuck longing.
mm,
I think well suffer from Saddad daily. I'm a very nostalgic person, but I can also take myself away from it. But yeah, I get nostalgic easily. So yeah,
yeah,
it's a nice book.
yeah. I can imagine that that's quite a
Mm.
feel-good book, and there's
Mm,
elements of that that remind you of
yeah,
certain things or places or people.
exactly.
Yeah, there was when you said the Sadat, did you say?
Yes, Saddad. Yes.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to explore these different
Mm,
words in different languages too, because some of them sound lovely, and then when
mm,
you read the meaning as well, you think, oh, that has a wonderful inspirational meaning or a
mm.
heartfelt meaning to it as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I shall have to look. I shall have to look that one up. If you mentioned that you were a creative writing teacher as well.
Mm,
Have you ever
yeah.
written or have you got any aspirations to write something fictional?
Uh, yes, I sometimes dream about writing something completely differently. My husband often encouraged me and say, "Oh, but you have a unique sense of humor. You should explore that more. There's also that side to Emily that you don't really perhaps show so much. So maybe one day I will. I'm currently working on my self-biographical works, which is autofiction, really.
Mm,
It's a story about three generations in this case, about my grandmother and her, how her, well, her how she survived the Holocaust, and how that has affected me and my father and going forward with my children. So it's quite a huge project. It's been ongoing for many years, but I now have a publisher who said,
excellent.
yes, we need to do this now. It's the right time. And I think it is. I was very happy with putting it in the drawer in the end because I learned so much from it. So publishing wouldn't be my aim, but now it feels quite good actually to revisit that place. So I do write creatively at the moment. I'm rewriting and yeah, looking back and doing some new research, adding things on, and I enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that I think because it's been such a big project now, I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason, and
Mm,
you're on the path that you're on at the moment. and you're exactly where you need to be. And then perhaps that needed to just take a little bit of a back seat while you launched the programs and you got the other books out of the way. And now it's time. You
Mm,
have more time that you can dedicate to that, which in itself, as well as your guides and the therapeutic writing, there's a really important story there that
mm,
you're able to tell and share that other people can learn from, both from,
mm,
what's happened in the past,
mm.
but also to give people a sense of that sort of, whatever's thrown at you, there can still be that light at the end of the tunnel again.
Believe it is the right time, and it is, of course, important considering what's happening in the world,
Mm,
and the granddaughter's perspective in this case. Yeah, I'm quite yeah, excited to share it with the world eventually, but it's a lot of work to get there because again, I need to go back to difficult places, but I think I can look at them differently with this great distance now. Yeah, 7 years or so since I last looked at those notes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
that is quite a gap, isn't it? But as you said, you've gone through your own learning
Yeah.
um, process, your own therapeutic writing has been a big part of that.
Mm.
And then how you've sort of worked through things,
Mm.
probably subconsciously, because a lot of the journal writing comes from subconscious level, doesn't it? And we're bringing things to the surface that through your
Yeah.
own work, with sharing and working with other people, that's
Mm.
also helped you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And going back to where we started when I lived in Deal, when we were about to move to Deal from London, I remember I contacted a local writers group in Deal. They were called Deal Writers. And unfortunately, when it was time for me to move there, the lady who used to run the group said, "Sorry, we decided to go separate ways now."
Oh, it's a shame.
But I have this possible job for you, which was the charity MCCH. But what I'm trying to say is that I had then started writing about my childhood, my grandma, and yeah, my family history. So that's what I wanted to explore, and I continue to do so alongside my own therapeutic writing groups.
Mm,
Travel to Germany, and yeah, many other places to find answers. I met relatives I had not seen since
yeah.
the 80s, and yeah, it was a big journey for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were bringing in all of your investigative journaling skills from the
Yeah.
research, but it was for personal reasons, and you were learning and growing
Mm.
at the same time.
Yeah, I think it was perhaps the reason why the work became so powerful because it was a parallel kind of journey for me writing and then meeting my groups, and then of course moving back to Sweden and going really deep, doing the trauma sensitive work with groups, and those programs were 6 month long programs, so we went really deep, and they were transformational journeys both for myself and the students.
Yeah, yeah, it's lovely to hear. We just need more and more people doing this everywhere.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So how Emily can you obviously you've got a couple of books that at some point will be in English print. At the moment you've got quite a lot of resources available. You've written for different articles, publications and that. So how is the best way for people to contact you to learn more about what you're doing?
Through the website, through my social media channels, Instagram or Facebook. But easiest would be to send an email. And I'm hoping to offer more digital courses, foundation courses in English too. I've started a new collaboration, which is still very early days, that's why I'm a bit secretive, but I will focus more on the international side of things. I've given Sweden my all, so to say, and obviously it's a main focus, but I like to spread my wings. I feel that the time is right now for that. So keep your eyes open.
Super, super. It's good to hear you spreading your wings. So I'll include the website and your social media links
Mm,
in the show notes. And there's a lot more links and resources and things that you've got on your website. And I know that you can be hired from organisations to develop bespoke
yeah,
workshops and programs.
yeah,
So if anyone's listening from a maybe
yeah.
a corporate or a community point of
Mm,
view. One other thing I'll just ask if that's okay, is if you had got one, maybe two tips for people who are perhaps new to journaling, or maybe one tip for people that are new to journaling, an easy way for them to get in, and perhaps another tip for someone who's a little bit more seasoned
mm.
to go a little bit deeper should they want to.
So for the beginners, I think an easy way, well, yeah, I would say an accessible way in would be through an image or a symbol. Maybe notice a specific perhaps object in your house, maybe that has a story. Start maybe there. Or there is a wonderful exercise that I like to share that I did recently with a group. A captured moment, and that is not perhaps a big moment or sensational moment, but a small moment, like it could be a great conversation with, your best friend, or um, spending time with your cat, or listening to that favorite music that would perhaps come on the radio in the car. Small moments, explore those. I like that exercise very much. Yeah, and just deep
Yeah.
dive into that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, so just picking one small thing,
Mm.
capturing the
Yeah.
moment, and then exploring how it makes you feel, why that
Mm.
particular moment, and see where that leads.
Or, of course, opening that door. What is on the other side? What do you see, and how do you feel when you enter your house? You don't have to take the step in, but just observe the room, and then, yeah, close the door when you're ready. That is also one of my favorites to get started, so
Mm.
to say. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, I like that.
And then for the seasoned journaling person, exploring different perspectives, I think is it's very exciting from a first or second, third person's perspective. Um, I think experience is quite an eye opener, or can be, to write a letter to yourself, but maybe write it from a third person's perspective, or write about specific situation, maybe a complex situation from a third person's perspective. And what do you see? What details come up? Something new, perhaps. When I wrote, or in uh, my family history, and the work I've been doing exploring my grandma's life, I have worked a lot with the third person's perspective. So,
That's a technique that I have done in the past. Writing from that different perspective helps you to see more,
mm,
and also appreciate actually you being in a certain situation or how you've experienced something isn't the way that everybody would experience it. It could be quite humbling,
mm,
particularly if you've built a situation up over time to have a certain meaning to you. And I
mm,
also think that kind of exercise helps a lot with compassion
yeah.
as well. So I'm trying to think back to, I think it was the exercise that Kay Adams did in Barcelona, where we did the person that we gave personality to the character sketch. Sorry, we
Mm,
did the character sketch and almost gave a personality to an emotion that we were
mm,
feeling. And I thought that was very similar because the thing that I had in my mind led me to think, actually, this person is probably coming from this approach, which was
mm,
something that I'd never considered before. And I thought, well, there's nothing wrong with that.
mm. No,
But the meaning
no.
that I took from it was completely different.
Yeah, that's a great exercise too. And dialogue writing, I'm a bit hesitant to say that, because actually dialogue writing has been one of the techniques I've feared the most, and I felt a blockage, like I can't do this. I'm happy to give instructions to others, but I did that in Barcelona and had a major breakthrough to go into a dialogue and be open and receive what your inner voice is saying can be very powerful, but you need to go very gently on yourself.
Yeah.
I was quite shaken up, but that's also very powerful. So yeah,
Yeah. And I think that just goes to highlight what you were saying about, having the right person guiding you through
yeah,
these steps. And you've been really seasoned in everything that you do, and we can still come to these processes and still be affected by them in some way again, which just reiterates what you were saying before about it
mm,
being an ongoing journey.
yeah, definitely.
It's fascinating, so many benefits. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you, Emelie, this morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I
you,
really
Anna.
appreciate you
Thank
sharing.
you. It's been so lovely to talk to you. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings two of my biggest loves in life together, writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.